Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Drop-In, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch to kick off your morning with some positivity, some good news stories, some great themes throughout the week to try and support you to better support your students. I am joined this morning by the one and only Lindsay Titus. Love Lindsay Titus. Love being live with you, Lindsay. I know we have so much that we're going to be discussing, especially since this week has a theme of how to start and end either your work day or your full day. And we want to provide you guys with tips and tricks to make sure that you are as successful as humanly possible to not only start, but also end your day. We have a bunch of celebrations today, so we'll be getting into that as well. So please go fill up your coffee, spit out your toothpaste. We're going to get set for a daily drop-in with our morning cheers, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Good morning. Lindsay, how are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you, Ray?
I'm thrilled to be live with you. I'm excited to cheers my coffee mug with you and drink coffee for the next hour, talking shop. It's so good to see you. For Lindsay, I feel like you are a staple on so many elements of the Teach Better team. You're so involved in so many different subgroups of this, very large and wonderful family. But if somebody hasn't connected with you or isn't fully up to speed on all the things that you do, would you mind sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do to support educators?
Absolutely. Yeah, so there is quite a bit, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love to say I'm an educator that likes to go into 100 different things. That's how I work best. So first and foremost, I am entering into my 16th year in education. Currently, I am a behavior specialist for one of our local school districts here, where I support 10 buildings, our 10 buildings on all things behavior. And then outside of that, I'm a coach and speaker with Define University. So going through my own burnout journey, my own I don't think I can do this anymore journey. I rediscovered that passion, and now I get to teach other educators how to truly live that blended lifestyle of loving all that you do inside and outside of the classroom. For Teach Better, I think I'm a part of every network there is. So if you go down the list, I love blogging. I have podcasts on the Podcast Network, on the Speakers Network. I do the masterminds. So you could just say I'm a Teach Better junkie.
I love that you're a Teach Better junkie, Lindsay. And I vividly remember some of our first conversations together being around the time the Daily Drop-In had just launched. And when I think back on how the Daily Drop-In actually came to be, in March of 2020, as the world was changing, a lot of my wonderful memories was actually being live talking to you. You were so full of really tactical strategies. And I felt like that was one thing that really drew me to not only you as a person, but your content that you continue to push out, because it's not fluff. It's really trying to get people the support that they need. And I just so appreciate that about you. And I want to say that very early on in our conversation, because I hope that a lot of people, a part of the Teach Better family, continue to connect with you and the support that you continue to provide. I know the comments are always like on fire, but Bree is calling me out saying that I am totally a Lindsay Titus fangirl. It just is what it is. You know how it is, Lindsay. You just have people that you love,
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate you saying that, because I honestly I feel the same way. I think I learned a lot, as almost every educator did. I learned more about myself in the last year. And, as someone that had already started my journey, you asked me a year and a half ago if I would be where I'm at today. I'd have absolutely no idea. Right. And I think that's the beauty of mindset work, is that sometimes we think it can be, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. Sure. But what I learned is when I really made the shift and I realized mindset is the tool to focus on, because that's what I always have with me. Mm-hmm. Everything changed. I didn't need to go track down the latest this or that. because I had everything I needed. And to me, it's all about being simple and easy. And so if I don't have to go get anything or buy anything or do anything, but I have to just learn to be me, it's not always the easiest, but it gets to be simple and easy. And so I love sharing that because I want every educator to wake up full of passion for life, like for what we do inside the classroom, but I also want you to be really excited for what you do out of the classroom too.
Well, and I always appreciate that about you as well, Lindsay, because it's not just about being an educator. I really see an educator as not only a career, but it kind of is a lifestyle choice. We're just kind of nerds all around, and that's why we accept each other. But the reality is there are important, necessary moments for us to step out of our work mode and to make different choices for us to be as successful and efficient as possible. And you continue to celebrate that, emphasize that, and help us find balance in that. And one thing that I continue to learn from you is not only mindset strategies, but the power of connecting. I've watched you connect with so many educators, and you not only continue to learn from each of them, but amplify their voices and stories as well. And those are the type of people I like to be around. So I am just so excited to be live with you here. I know we can say good morning to all of our friends in the comments. Thank you for those of you that are sharing this feed to share some positivity and love with your network, but also commenting here live with us as we are streaming to, join the daily drop-in discussion. A lot of people commenting that they're very, very excited for you to be here. Lindsay, you did mention that you also have been an author, right? You have a journal that people use all the time. That's going to go really well in our discussion later today about routines. Can you tell us just a little about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple years ago, I started doing, if anyone follows me on Instagram, I started doing morning stories every day, Monday through Friday. And it honestly started selfishly. I'm like, I need that little kick in the butt. Let's get the morning started. And people liked it, right? They responded. It was what I have teachers reach out. They're like, I watch it on my lunch break. It's my midday boost. And that's what I love, right? That fills me up. So after a couple years of doing this, I was like, this would be really cool to have written down. I love journaling. I love reflecting. It's a practice that I do daily. And so I had this idea kind of in the back of my head, could I do that? And I've now learned if I say that, the answer is always yes. So now the question becomes, do I want to do that, right? Is that something that aligns to me? I know I'm capable of doing anything. Do I want to do it? Maybe yes, maybe no. And this was a definite yes. Kind of got put on the back burner for a little bit. And then it's one of those stories. Out of tragedy comes this amazing, what I think is an amazing journal. With my mom's passing in December, it is the only thing I wanted to work on. So I remember being in Florida, cleaning out her home, doing all this family stuff. And yet any chance I could, I was writing. I was creating this journal, and the 30-day edition was put out into the world in January, followed by the 90-day came a couple months later. And it really is a tool that you can use morning, afternoon, evening, all through your day to help you reflect, which to me is one of the foundational actions we can take to truly, understand who we are as we are each day.
I always think it's interesting, Lindsay, you've been a part of our Teach Better family for however long. And anytime we talk about routines or journaling, your work comes up in the conversation. Typically, I'm not even live with you when it happens. People will bring you up in the comments, or people will bring you up when we're on screen, because the strategies that you provide are things that really resonate with people. And while I've never considered myself somebody who journals, I know that that's something that does hit the sweet spot with certain types of, personalities, educators, whatever definition you want to go with. And I love that there's so many different outlets and mediums to find success in these areas. And the fact that you wanted to bring that kind of goal to fruition is so powerful. I kind of want to challenge our audience right now. If you guys are in the comments, I would love to hear, what's your Lindsay Titus big audacious goal that you're I may not choose to chase it right now. I may not choose to chase it for 30 years. Maybe it's just not on the docket for me. But what's a goal that you're looking to run and chase after at some point? You think that this is something you want to go after, whether you're chasing it right now, or you're oh, just wait till my kids are out of high school and then I'm going after it. I think those goals can be so powerful. And I love that you went after and chased after this goal of creating a journal for people to really thrive off of. That's awesome. So powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a process. I learned through it. But I think when you are, anytime it comes to a goal, I think one of the important things is realizing like the end product isn't necessarily the reason we do the goal, right? The whole reason we have a goal is because we ourselves are ready to change. We're ready to evolve. Because if I didn't need to change, the goal would be accomplished today. So writing that journal, sure, I had the skill to write the daily doses of inspiration. I had the skill to know what affirmations were, but I didn't have the trust in myself to actually make it happen, right? So that's where this inner work comes in. I had to unpack those beliefs that I could put a book out into the world, that it would be purchased, that people wouldn't simply be like, what is she doing, and think I'm nuts, right? And that's where a lot of this work comes from. The actual doing is not often the hard part. It's unpacking all that inner voice, right? The inner, I say we have an inner critic and an inner champion. It's how do you quiet the inner critic, or listen and say, I don't agree, and let that inner champion kind of guide your way.
Ah, what a cool way to start a Tuesday morning, 10 minutes into Daily Drop-In. We have people sharing their goals and aspirations in the comments. I love these. I want to get my master's is a Willowmaker Dragon over on Twitch. I'd love to hear what you want to get your master's in. I know that is a wonderful goal. It looks like there's an addition here that says, in all honesty, I just want to continue to grow myself as a teacher, which is so wonderful. Lindsay, do you have your master's degree?
I do, yes.
Yeah, because you have to. Yeah, for your role, you have to, right?
Not just, so I'm a certified teacher. So I started out teaching, and I guess I thought it was the country, but maybe it's New York. In New York, a master's degree is required to teach.
Okay.
So I was the crazy teacher that the first week of school, my first year of teaching, I started my master's degree.
Cool. No, I love that. It looks like they're looking to get one in curriculum development. I know this looks so different. I have my master's in curriculum and development. Go after it. Like, you can totally do it. If most educators do their master's while they're teaching. You take on, whatever work size makes the most sense for your day to day. I say jump on board. There's so many tuition waivers too. Look into that. Bree is jumping into here, and she says, be a writer for a children's cartoon. That fits Bree. I see that. Bree, go after this dream. Not tomorrow, today. How do we get you to be a writer for a children's cartoon? I see this.
And so can I jump on this real quick? Because
Please.
Here's what I think we do sometimes. I did it for years. When we have that future goal, we keep it future oriented, right? So one day I'll be a writer, right? One day I will do this. One day will always stay one day. So we write it, we speak it as if it's happening today. I'm a writer for a children's cartoon. Then, because this is where people sometimes get tripped up. They're like, but it doesn't just happen like that. I'm like, well, no, there's this missing piece. You've got to envision the lifestyle that person is living. So how do you walk? How do you talk? How do you dress? How do you experience life as a writer? And what of those, right? One at a time, small, simple, and strategic. What can you start doing today, right? For me, a simple example is I changed out. I used to have a backpack at work. And again, if you have a backpack, use it. I didn't feel like the educator I wanted to feel with my backpack. So I went and I got, it's super girly. It's a pink, purse. Anyone that knows me knows that is my favorite color. But I feel like how I envision myself 10 years from now when I put that bag on. Simple example, but it really is about who do you need to be today to make that dream possible in the future.
Well, and I think it's funny because, and Bree, we're just going to keep picking on you because we love you so much. Bree, I think you are already a writer. She's published children's books already. Bree is an author. And to say that for a children's cartoon, that could be cool. I think your next book should just be a little bit of a children's cartoon book. Because in my mind, Bree, you could already have accomplished that or just finish that up this week. You are already doing such powerful work in this space that it's so easy for me to say, oh my gosh, you should start that in 5 minutes. Let's go. That's exactly what you should be chasing. So I love this big dream and aspiration. I really like this one. Alex jumping in, he says, my bag is publishing a guide for supporting substitute teachers. So his goal is like to look at publishing a guide for substitute teachers. That's a wonderful, like, I love that goal. That's so good. That's so much like positive impact as well for Alex to be able to create that.
Absolutely. And it's such an area of need, right? It's such an area of how do we support, our substitute teachers that may not have the training that, we have coming out of school or the experiences we have.
Well, and I'll say, Alex, like, depending on how you want to do that, like, I would love to collaborate with you on that. If you already have the content in your mind and you like want to make it a PDF printable, or like, I don't know, maybe it's like a little bit of a text, like, we should collaborate. I know that, geez, I would love to get that going. Our substitute teachers deserve so much support. So I love all this. There are a lot of comments coming in. Thrilled to see that people are taking on this challenge. It's so fun. We're going to transition into a whole nother slew of celebrations, which is highlighting good news for the day, not only in celebrating the holidays, the goofy holidays that we have set every single day, but also the good news stories that can brighten our morning. So we'll be right back. Okay, Lindsay, you heard it right here. Alex says yes, and he's sharing his outline with me this morning. Done. This guide is going to be out by Friday somewhere, so keep your eyes peeled. With how much of a teacher shortage we have and a substitute shortage we have, I think it's our responsibility to create this guide to help people be more successful in this area. I think this is going to be so fun, Alex. So excited that this came out of this morning's Daily Drop-In.
Well, and I also love the two examples that we looked at, right? We looked at Bree's and we looked at Alex's. Both are already taking steps today to make those happen. So here we talked about this big audacious goal, and both of them are taking a first step to make it happen. And that's what happens when we own it. Like when we declare it, to me, that's always your first step. Just watch out, because your momentum has now started rolling. When we make it possible today, it's crazy.
Wait, so I know we're supposed to get to a good news segment, but can I put you on the spot, Lindsay? I mean, you've accomplished so much already. Do you have right now a big audacious goal, or are you in kind of a phase where you've reached a lot of your goals and you're trying to maintain and elevate within the goals that you've already set? Where are you at in this process?
When I think of my big audacious goal, it is to be the director, lead, professor, doesn't really matter, at a university to really reform teacher prep programs.
Ooh.
So I want to redefine what teacher prep means. I want to add in more mindset. I want to add in more human development and understanding the brain and understanding kids and understanding ourselves. And so to me, I always go, what's the first domino? And for me, I want to go to the first domino for me, which is teacher prep, right? So we come out more ready than we are now. So that's my big audacious goal.
I love it. Totally eager to support you in that. There's a lot of celebrations for today. One of which, as we look at our goofy sheet here of all the holidays, is Waffle Day. I encourage you all to have a waffle. I believe, with my salad and French fry diet, that every single morning should start with an Eggo waffle. So if you're not consuming that day to day, you're missing out on the joys of life. And I encourage you all to take a moment to have a waffle. It's also extremely important to me that we highlight that today is Kobe Bryant Day. Kobe lost his life in January of 2020, and today would have been his birthday. And so there's a lot of celebrations out there celebrating Kobe Bryant Day. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to also, bring up good conversations with students. I mean, obviously he was an incredible athlete. There's so many celebrations to be had there. And I can only imagine the fun conversations that you can get in with students or even your colleagues around remembering some of those incredible moments of today. Lindsay, I have a little bit of a goofy news story for us, and it involves a duck. Are you a rubber ducky fan?
I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I do have a rubber duck in my car from Dave Schmittou. So,
Lindsay, that's what Daily Drop-In's all about, like really getting to those hard-hitting questions that no one's ever asked you before. So I'm thrilled to be able to confidently say that I asked Lindsay the first time if she's a rubber duck fan. But can we get into why in the world you have a rubber duck from Dave Schmittou?
I won it. He had I don't know, hundreds that he was giving away. I think I won it on a Brain Break thing. It's like a little one. I think it's swim. It has floaties on.
I don't understand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, let's go back. See, because sometimes I forget that I'm a part of a professional development team that supports educators when those sentences come out of people's mouths. So you are listening to a Brain Break, which happens on Wednesdays, by the way, for those of you who have not joined Brain Break before. You were listening to a Brain Break and you won a rubber ducky from Dr. Dave Schmittou, and he sent it to you and you have it in your car. Is that all accurate?
It is accurate. The reason it's in my car though is because I'm a big believer in what you see is going to help you how you feel, right?
Sure.
I look at that duck and it makes me laugh. I absolutely love it. And it's kind of taken on this new meaning of don't take things too seriously. You have a rubber ducky in your car. Life is amazing. It can't be bad.
I am so upset that I am out of this thing. We have people commenting, doesn't everybody have a rubber duck from Dave? I'm sorry, I don't. What in the world? Can somebody tag Dave, regardless of what platform you're on? Better yet, if you're on all different platforms, tag him on all the different platforms. Can you @ and tag Dave Schmittou right now so that we can get him involved? Because I don't think he's watching this morning right now and talk about this duck issue. I don't feel like I can move forward until I fully understand. I'm so jealous. Is he buying more rubber duckies that we can all win from Dave Schmittou? I don't understand. Okay. In the meantime, while we are getting Dr. Dave Schmittou, I know that he's preparing for a presentation because we're a few members of the Teach Better team are headed over to Clark County this morning to start their morning off. So knowing Dave, he popped in this morning to say good morning, and now he's showering and getting ready and getting his family ready for his presentation later this afternoon. But Dave, we need you back in here. So get back over to the Daily Drop-In. All right. Looking at this article, which doesn't reference Dave Schmittou, but who knows? Who's to say this could be his? It says giant rubber duck mysteriously appears in Maine Harbor. A 25-foot tall rubber duck appeared in the harbor of a small Maine town last week, and no one seems to know where it came from. They have a picture and a video. It is a giant rubber ducky floating in the marina. And I will tell you that what does it say on the rubber duck? It says joy. So they are in a big debate, according to the news article that was published earlier this week. Big debate that they should just keep it because it's bringing so much joy and laughter to the harbor that this giant 25-foot inflatable rubber ducky is spreading joy to that community. So I think we all need a rubber ducky. And I also think that if it's 25 feet tall, that just makes it better.
Absolutely. And this is, again, we all know Lindsay's brain's a little crazy, but as soon as you said duck, this is where my mind went. So I often look up the meaning of animals and the meaning of numbers. And so I do it a lot where I live because we have 15 acres here. So we have a little bit of every animal that you could see right in the woods and wilderness. And so sometimes, if I wake up and there's 20 deer in my yard, I go, what's the meaning of deer? Because clearly there's something here to tell me. So as you were reading that, I looked up the meaning of duck. This could not be more perfect for what we're talking about here. It says, be in the now, be in the moment, for this is where all your power exists and is available to you. Ducks love the gentle motion of slow moving water, drifting along rivers and ponds. This is a powerful message to go with the flow where the waters take you naturally. There you have it.
There you have it, guys. Go with the flow. That's the biggest takeaway from today's morning story is everyone needs a rubber duck to remind you to go with the flow. I'm such a fan of this. We'll be right back. We're going to get into our brainstorm bank and get into your questions and talk about some tactical strategies we can all take to not only start our morning with success with obviously rubber ducks, but also end our work day so that we are ready to take on the week. All right, you guys know how our Brainstorm Bank works. You can head over to teachbetter.com/brainstormbank or teachbetter.com/daily drop-in and submit your questions so that we can brainstorm alongside you in case something halfway through your day or at the end of the day comes up and you're like, gosh, I really need a brainstorm partner. That's why we're here. We're taking an intentional moment to celebrate with you and not only the wonderful things you're already doing with students, but also some hurdles that you might be choosing to overcome that maybe we can help connect you with a resource to support you. Lindsay, our theme this week has to do with routines, and you are such a professional, such a pro at routines. To be honest, I've only, I think, had deep discussions with you about morning routines, but we're actually talking about the bookends of our day. So not only morning routines, but any strategies for ending our workday with success or even ending our full day with success. So where do you want to start? Where is your passion with this? Tell us a little bit.
So my gut was gonna say my morning routine. However, then I was gonna follow up with my morning routine starts the night before.
Oh, okay, wait. Let's get into that because yesterday when Jeff was with us, we started talking about routines and he brought up this avenue of like, well, ending your day is not just when you go to bed, but also if you end your work day with intentionality. Now you're talking about, yeah, morning routine's great, but start it the night before. That's a whole new slew. So tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is something I've been practicing maybe like the last year or so. Because I used to have really strong morning routines. That's a routine I started probably 4 years ago at this point. But ultimately what ended up happening is when I kept them separate, right? When you have your morning routine separate from your evening routine, it makes each day almost separate in itself, right? It makes them almost siloed, if you will. And so, it didn't feel right, right? And I'm a big believer on what feels right, what feels aligned. And so the coach that I was working with said, well, what if your morning routine started the night before? And again, that was one of those like, well, what? That can't happen, right? the analytical brain of mine would be like, no, one day ends, but even just that, right? So this day technically ends 11:59, right? And then 59 seconds. And 1 second later, it's a new day. It's like, no, it gets to just be a continuous flow of each day. So
look at you bringing in the rubber ducky with the flow. I love it. Keep going.
So instead of, each day, starting in the morning, it actually starts the night before. And so I keep my evening routine really simple. I'm generally high vibe, high energy, but around 8 o'clock, that definitely goes by the wayside. It definitely goes down, which isn't a bad thing. Like I want to get into that state so I can sleep well. Mm-hmm. And so generally it's, once Kaylee's in bed, my daughter, once she's all set, it really is more, I do 3 quick tasks, and I do them, I don't even write them down. I do them all in my head, or talking out loud. I visualize my sleep. I visualize how I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep so good. I'm going to sleep so hard. I'm going to wake up so rested. I do an affirmation for how I'm feeling in that moment. I'm so relaxed in this moment. I can't wait to fall asleep and dream, amazing things. And I set my intention for the next morning. When I wake up in the morning, I will be ready to tackle the day. I will be strong. I will be, whatever the intention is. And then I go to bed. Right? So that then leads. And it's one of those things that's like, when I first heard it, I was like, no way. Like, no way. This is like crazy. This is woo. Like, no way. And I started doing it and I was like, okay, I can't knock it. Like, it works. And I would wake up feeling a lot more refreshed, feeling a lot more ready to tackle the day. And if you think about it, isn't that how we want to wake up, right? We want to wake up. I don't want to spend an hour of my day getting ready to wake up. Like that's defeating the purpose. My morning routine is truly building my momentum moving forward. So I need to wake up with that feeling already. And by starting the night before, it helps lead me into the next day.
Well, and I love that concept of it being truly a flow. I mean, clearly with how we've labeled this week, talking about bookending your day, it really doesn't model that narrative. But as you're really thinking about why is it valuable to end your day, quote unquote, with intentionality? Well, of course, it's important to do that so you can start your day with success as well. And I think that that's a huge element of what you're highlighting here is that if you want your morning to go well, if you want that feeling when you wake up to feel rested and ready to tackle any hurdle that comes towards you, then you actually do have to begin from before you went to sleep to make sure you're prepared for that. And as you're looking at that flow, I assume that kind of like leads into then a successful morning, a successful afternoon, and kind of repeats itself. Is that true?
It is. Yep, absolutely. And it's the beauty is, it's sometimes even hard for me to say like this is my morning routine versus afternoon versus evening, because it truly is. These are things I do throughout the entire day. These are now continuous habits that, because I've practiced them with intentionality, they've become a part of who I am. So one thing I used to do at night that I don't specifically at night anymore, because I just do it through the day, is I celebrate, right? I'm a big believer in celebrating things, but back then, right, a few years ago, that was really hard for me because I would go to bed thinking about all the things I didn't do in a day. And I would create the list next to me, right? We often hear that, keep a notebook next to you and write down all the things that come to your mind, which is true. But if you go to bed with that list in your head, guess what you wake up thinking about? And you see it, right? So you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. Then I have to start this ridiculously long list.
Right, a ridiculously long list that you've been avoiding for like 8 hours, right? You're like, I already slept and avoided it for 8 hours. What else can I do to avoid it for 9, right?
Exactly. So one quick switch is don't label it a to-do list, label it a brain dump list, right? That's, again, it's going to help reframe your brain to think, okay, it's not, I don't have to wake up and do this list. This is just what's on my mind, right? Get it out of my mind. But then if that is what you're doing, on the very next page, create a celebrations list or a results list of at least 3 things you did accomplish in that day, so that you are going to bed like, I tackled today. And I'm not gonna lie, some days it was I got dressed, I took a shower, I made my bed. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's, our brain will tell us that's not big enough to write down. That's not special enough. And that just takes us being strong to be like, yeah, it is. Because I got dressed, which means I showed up the best that I could. Thank you very much, right? And you've got to have that authority with yourself to be authentic and not let that inner critic win. But if we're going to bed with a huge to-do list, guess what? You're going to wake up with it the next day. So reframe it, get in those celebrations, and then you're going to wake up like, I got this. I can do this. At least that energy is going to help guide you into the day.
You know, Lindsay, your focus frequently, a lot of the content that you push out, whether it be your podcast or when you go and you speak and work with districts, has to do with this concept of reframing some of the narratives that we already have written for ourselves. And one of the things that I can't believe it took us 32 minutes to bring up, but you know, it's my favorite topic, is this concept of shouldville, which I'd really love to get into, because I know that you and I have had this dialogue, I don't know, 10 plus times. But as we talk about routines, I think there needs to be a intentional moment and then intentional dialogue around reframing the idea of what your morning routine should or evening routine should look like, because everybody's got an opinion. And while suggestions of what these, you know, opportunities in our day could look like are valuable, there actually is a beauty to crafting that intentionally to serve you as a person, right? We're all different. So tell us a little about that concept.
Yeah, so this concept came, well, because I was living in Shouldville. And it really came from, I started to pay attention to the words I was speaking and the words I was writing. And when I looked back at a lot of my journal entries and I kind of just looked for patterns, the word should was like on the page 20 times. And I was like, what is this? Like, and so I did, again, just kind of, and then one day the word shouldville came to me and I was like, that's it. That's where I've been living. I was living my life like I thought I should, what other people expected of me. And, you know, a lot of people call that people pleasing, you know, and I don't actually think people pleasing is the bad part, right? I think especially as educators, that's what we do. We serve others. We want to please others. No one wakes up in the morning saying, I really hope I annoy 10 people today, right? At least I hope not. If you do, you do you, but I don't. But I think the issue is when you are taking action based on what you think somebody thinks of you, like even just saying it's complicated, right? It's heavy, it's complex. And so I realized a lot of the decisions I was making is because that's what I thought I should do. And all of those come from your childhood, right? Those come from your past experiences. So I had to really do some deep diving into what is it that I want? And that was like, that was the hardest question, right? When someone asks, like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know how to answer that question. I'm like, I know I don't want to feel like I feel now. And I think that is always, and we've talked about it, that is always my go-to piece. When anybody talks about a routine, there's two things I bring up. One is don't let your routine be so specific that it's going to hold you back. So often, and a lot of times this happens with boundaries too. We set those boundaries that are so specific. I'm going to leave work every day at 3:30. Well, okay, what if you leave at 3:29? What if you leave at 3:31? Right? And we have that conversation a lot with grades and things like that, right? What is a 90 versus a 92? What's an 89 versus a 90? You can do the same thing with your boundaries, right? What is the difference between 3:30 and 4? Go a step further and get to the why, right? What's the value? Why are you going to do that? And then I always say, like, loosen up a little bit, loosen those boundaries a little bit, or routines, to say, I will leave work when I feel called to leave work, right? I will leave work at a time that feels right. And that means you got to feel, right? You got to work with your own intuition. And all of this, by doing these pieces, I slowly left should-ville behind, because I was doing actions that I truly wanted to do. So in setting up a morning routine, sure, I got inspiration from other places. Okay, this person meditates, this person reads, this person does gratitude, and I played around with it. And my morning routine changes every morning. What doesn't change is the standard, which is I serve myself before I serve others. So creating a personalized routine, really the second thing comes down to, how do you want to feel? And I know we've talked about this before. If you want to feel energized, then you got to know what energizes you. If you want to feel calm, maybe you wake up super anxious one morning and you need actually some calming activities, then you've got to know what those are for you. You can simply do that by doing an activity tracker, right? In your phone, on a sheet of paper, do an activity, put an arrow. How did you feel before? Or how did you feel? Do the activity. How did you feel after? And then you have this series of activities, so you can start to create your own list. Okay, this is my energizing list. This is my calming list. Then you can start to create your morning routine based on intuition, not based on what you should do because on Monday you decided you were going to do this arbitrary routine. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, Lindsay. And I think you just added a multitude of layers to this dialogue. What I'm hearing is that when you wake up in the morning, depending on the state that you're in, you adjust what you actually do that you consider a morning routine. Is that true?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
So that means that, you know, while some of us might have a goal of like, I work out every morning and I wake up to make sure that's done, you're actually looking at it as a less about what I'm doing and more about the feeling that I want to have either after or during or whatever, so that I choose the activity, which I love that you kind of have like a list of options when you've tracked kind of like what fuels you. But you're choosing that activity in the morning based on how you actually want your day, your feeling to progress, as you know, after following a wake up time. That's got to be really powerful, but also really challenging, depending on, like, making that decision could be hard for some people of, you know, deciding early in the morning before your cup of coffee, like, what do you want your morning to look like? Do you ever struggle with that?
I did in the beginning, absolutely. And so in the beginning, you know, my morning routine, especially, it started with 3 minutes of gratitude, right? So what my morning routine is now was not what it was then. I used to wake up, you know, hit snooze 4 times, rush out the door. And what did I find? I was rushed all day long because I started out what I was looking for. I wake up with these thoughts of, man, today's going to stink. This kid's going to do that. Oh, I have that meeting. It's going to go terrible, right? My thoughts were dictating my actions ultimately because that's what I was starting with. And so I started with 3 minutes. I used to set my alarm for 6. I set it for 5:57, and I would lay in bed and just say gratitude for 3 minutes. That then turned into, okay, I'm going to write it. That turned into, and so back then, and again, this was about 4 years ago, it was very strategic. I did like 10 minutes of gratitude, 20 minutes of reading. I probably did some goal work in there. And that served me for a couple years until I knew, and through those years, I'm learning to trust my intuition, right? I'm learning to trust what feels good. I'm learning to truly understand the emotions that are going on within me. The difference between anger and frustration, right? The difference between sadness and grief, the difference between, X, Y, and Z, whatever. So now I am able to wake up and say, what does my body need? And so, for example, last 2 days, my body has needed meditation. I have needed stillness. I have needed silence because I wake up and my brain is going 800 directions. So I know enough about myself that I actually need then to do the opposite, right? Instead of going with them all, I need to work on silence. And so I've been doing some meditation, and it's been messy. It's been very messy, but that's part of the process.
Well, what I love about this process that you're suggesting, Lindsay, is that really you can provide structure for yourself in your routines, whether it be in the morning, in the afternoon, whatever. But as long as you're not doing it with the intention of saying, I should be doing this, so I'm providing the structure for myself, but more so, I'm going to do this so I can reflect and learn from the choices I'm making. So it's not so much, I need to do gratitude for 3 minutes when I wake up, no ifs, ands, buts about it. But if I do that, I can reflect and actually teach my body what it feels like to be choosing to do this work. And then I can decide if it's good for me or not, depending on the day, the year, the month, or anything in between. I think that reflection component allows you to then not only provide the flexibility, which you referenced earlier, but also allows you to then understand what your body needs, which is a huge element that you also highlighted at the beginning of your list of suggestions. Is you can only know what's good for your body if you try it, reflect on it, document it, and then kind of either move forward in a different direction or choose to continue it so you can learn from this process. I really, really like that thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if, we mentioned like working out, right? So I know a lot of people do. They wake up and they work out. Take it one step further, right? Why are you working out? What's the reason for? Are you working out or waking up just to work out and say you did it? Okay. But it could be that I move my body every morning, right? That could be your routine. That could be your standard. You then still get to pick. Am I really sore? Maybe I'm going to stretch for 20 minutes. Is it, maybe I got so much energy, I'm going to go run, right? That's not me. That will probably never be me, but to each their own. But maybe I'm going to do a HIIT workout, right? Maybe I'm going to do weights. Maybe I'm going to do strength. Like, you still get to decide. And so I think it's so important that you can have that. I move my body every morning. Perfect. Then you get to decide based on how you're feeling that morning, how are you going to move your body? What's going to get you to what it is you are looking? Are you looking to feel better? Like, do you not want to be like a stiff board all day? Maybe you stretch. If you want to be able to relax and you've got to get that energy out, maybe you're going for a run. So you decide, knowing that piece. And that's where reflection truly comes in, because we only learn that about ourselves when we take those moments to reflect on where we were, where we are, and where we want to go.
We have people popping in for Daily Drop-In. Obviously, we are live every single morning at 7 a.m. Eastern, but sometimes we pop in late. That's the love of kind of getting our morning started the way we need. We hope that Daily Drop-In is a part of your morning, but we also would love to have it be a part of your afternoon if that's a better fit for you. Karen is jumping in saying that she's like, oh my God, this sounds like a good one. I have to rewatch this later because Lindsay sounds like my jam. Karen, I will tell you that Lindsay will be your jam. If you are not connected to her, that definitely is something that you want to do. Lindsay, I'd love to shift our conversation only slightly because I think there's going to be similarities. But something I really enjoy about our dialogue, typically it just ends up being about morning routines, is those like strategies that we can take on starting today. So even with what we've discussed already, we can put a plan in place where this afternoon, before we head to bed, we take some strategies or suggestions that you've provided. We get a journal ready to track some of our energy, and we start our journey of reflecting on what we want our morning routines to end up looking like. I love that this isn't just this like top level try meditation, but there's actually some things we can go do. I'd love to get your thoughts on the concept of ending a workday, because ending a workday is something that Jeff brought up yesterday that really hit home for me when I'm talking about starting and ending our day with success. I do mean waking up with intention, waking up with what we need for our bodies. I've referenced it numerous times that daily drop-in is actually a wonderful way for me to get started with my day. It brings me so much energy. I love learning early in the morning. It gets my brain thinking. And I do think that like I have my own evening routine that kind of gets my mind in the right spot before I go to sleep. But ending the workday is kind of a separate conversation. I think teachers struggle, especially at the beginning of the year, like taking time leaving work. And you referenced earlier, I'm going to leave work when I feel called to leave. I think that even that alone, while a beautiful suggestion, can be really, really tough to make because you might feel called to leave because your family is home and you want to see them and you know that's good for you, but you also have a massive to-do list on your desk and post-its everywhere and you feel called to stay at the same time. So help me understand as an educator, if it's Tuesday afternoon, I'm trying to make good decisions for myself. What are your thoughts on how you end your day with success in terms of the professional workday?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely, a bigger conversation for sure and I say that because if it's Tuesday afternoon and you're like, I gotta go, like you're already kind of in reactive mode, right? We're responding to the situation. So one of the things that my goal is to help educators see is both kind of a micro view of your day, but also your macro view or like your week or your month, right? Because at the end of the day, to-do lists never go away, right? If you are living, there's always something to do, I hope, right? That's the goal, is that we are doing. But again, we are conditioned often, and again, through our experiences, through society, through social media, we are conditioned to think, try and get everything done off your to-do list, right? We hear like, add it to your to-do list so you can cross it off. And I used to do that for years, like once I did things. But I was doing it as a way to prove to myself my worth based on what I was doing in a day, that productivity level. So I do think there's a bigger conversation about these beliefs about what does it mean to walk out of your classroom with a to-do list on your desk or with a brain dump on your desk, right? What are you telling? What's your inner dialogue telling you, right? What kind of teacher does that? Because if we don't unpack that, I can give strategies all day long, but it's the whole premise of almost like a New Year's resolution, right? If I set a resolution, but I don't change my beliefs, I don't change my thoughts, February is going to come and that resolution's out the window. I'm not going to follow it. And so being able to know who you are, that you are not your to-do list, that's essential, right? Your email is somebody else's to-do list. It's not yours. Somebody else needs something of you. So in helping, actually just worked with an educator on this, and we planned out using time blocking, we planned out her week with flexibility. So she knows like these are the pieces, where it kind of work. And it's flexible. It's not so set in stone, but it helped her visualize like, holy moly, I have 12 hours. Like, and I was like, and by, I think I said by November, I'm like, you're not going to need 12 hours of kind of outside teacher time. I said, we're going to cut that. That is the goal. And I think it's recognizing those pieces. But I also think it comes down to knowing your values, right? And knowing who you identify as. So if you ask an educator, and I don't have like, statistics on this, but most educators are going to say they're an educator or a teacher or, something from their career. They're going to say if they're a parent or not, and they're going to say if they're like some kind of spouse or parent, spouse or married. So for me, I'd say I'm an educator, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, right? Off the bat, those are the, and that is true. That's usually how I answer that question. But it's what else are you? Like, what else do you want out of this life? Because what makes it easier for me, and I am someone, I leave about the same time. I rarely bring things home. Now, part of that is because I get really productive during the day. So you've also got to kind of monitor that timepiece. But I don't look at my days anymore as work ends, that hat comes off, this goes in, right? I live the blended lifestyle, which means I'm wearing all hats all the time and different skill sets are used at different times. And then I guess the last is sometimes it just takes leaving and proving to yourself that you can walk out the door, even though there's things and life doesn't end. It will be okay. And simplify. We naturally tend to overcomplicate things. Ask yourself, okay, that lesson that I was going to sit here and create, is there an easier way? Is there an easier way to get to that outcome? Can I simplify it and then take those small, simple steps?
Lindsay, there are so many takeaways from this morning's daily drop-in. I think that there are not only so many strategies of how to start your day, but truly how to ebb and flow throughout your day. That rubber ducky story did set us up for success. We really did have so much dialogue around just being fluid and flexible throughout your day and kind of carrying core values with you at all moments in time so that you can continuously make decisions that's best serving you. I think that not only was a theme for today, but continues to be a theme for all the work that you do. I know you are a Teach Better ambassador, a blogger, a podcaster. You're a part of our speakers network, which we're incredibly thankful for. We love being able to have districts work with you and actually get that like one-on-one coaching with teachers that I know you do at Define University. Can you give us a little bit of insight, Lindsay, if people are listening right now, maybe this is their first introduction to you and they're like, holy cow, I'm jumping on the Lindsay Titus train. How do I start, incorporating Lindsay, nuances into my day? Where can they stay connected to you?
Absolutely. So what's on the screen here is my Twitter handle. I'm also on Instagram. If you search my name, it's Lindsay Titus EDU. Also on Facebook. So I post pretty regularly on those 3 sites, and they're generally all related to mindset. They're either quotes, they're things to try, they're things to consider, because my goal is to make mindset small, simple, and strategic, right? Which is really why I show up. And a lot of what I then kind of carry it into is behavior, right? And how do we understand behavior, student behavior, our own behavior? The other place to check out is my website, Define University, which is YOU in the university piece. And that has all information about all things Define You, but it also has a connect with me page where you can send me an email and let's connect.
I love it. There's so much there, guys. Please go check out Lindsay's stuff. Lindsay, I love that you have just chosen to be so a part of the Teach Better family. I mean, even I'm just reflecting, like, I didn't even name you're a part of the admin mastermind you've popped into. You've been so consistent in lending your advice there, listening there, supporting others there. You're a part of our Edupreneur mastermind as you continue to set goals for yourself and the impact that you want to have on educators. I love everything, Lindsay Titus. I'm so appreciative that you were able to join us this morning to kick off our Tuesday as we continue to highlight, ways that we can be successful throughout our day. I know there's a lot of takeaways. So thank you so much for joining us. For everybody else, we will see you again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7 a.m. Eastern for our daily drop-in. We stream every single morning, Monday through Friday on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And then obviously after the fact, they're not only saved on those platforms, but you can check out the full episodes at Teach Better Talk podcast as well. So we continue to bring wonderful people, hopefully amplify the stories and give you suggestions of educators doing incredible things. Lindsay, thank you again. I so appreciate you. And I hope that you enjoy your last sip of coffee, guys, as we end our day. Lindsay, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.